What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports and you're watching our Big Ten channel. Going to give you a very early projected record for the Washington Huskies before we get to the 2024 projection. Let's look back at some of the projections from 2023. All right, so let's get to the projections. They were 12-0 last year in the regular season. They were projected to go 10-2 with our projections. My prediction also was 10-2. Athlon had them at 10-2. The over/under was at 9.5. So it seemed like that was a pretty easy over, but things could have gone much differently for this team. They had a lot of close games. They weren't that far away, believe it or not, from going 9-3. So let's get to the projections this year, and keep in mind this is not a prediction; it's just a projection with the formula that we use. It's based off of how tough the schedule is and how good we expect each team to be. I use a tier system. I have Washington in tier 3. They might not even be that good. Honestly, it's hard to say right now. But I didn't want to drop them off too much just because of where they were just last year. And they do have some guys coming back. So I've got them as a tier 3 team. And there are 5 tiers in the Power 5, if you're wondering, or the Power 4, I guess I should say. And this is the scale that we use. So if it's under 20, over 80, games that are pretty much guaranteed wins or losses, 20-29, 71-80. Games where I think the spread will be double digits, 10-14 points maybe in that range, 30-39, 61-70. Games where I think spread will be closer to touchdown, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And then the 50-50 games in the white, we'll be leaving those in the white. Those are games that can really go either way. So the easy wins, the first 2 non-conference games, I think really no problem in either one of those games. Washington should roll. Even with a team that could be a lot worse than they were last year, they're still going to be good enough to take care of business in those 2 games. And then no games in the blue, actually. We go all the way to the purple now for Washington State, Northwestern, Indiana, and UCLA. I do think Washington will be favored by about a touchdown in these games, but Washington State's a rivalry game. Northwestern's coming off a really good year. How good will they be? Of course, a lot of question marks with all the teams at this point. Indiana would be in the blue, but because it's on the road, that's why that one is in the purple. And then UCLA in the purple. They also have a lot of questions with the new coaching staff. So we'll see how that game turns out. But 4 games where I think Washington will be favored, not by a lot, but I think they will be favored by, about a touchdown. And then Michigan. So Michigan is going to be in the yellow here. This is a game that I think Washington's going to be an underdog by about a touchdown. And really it's because Michigan, they've got the coaching change. They've lost some really good players to the NFL. So I don't expect Michigan to be quite as good as they were last year. I think they have a chance to maybe be a tier 2 team instead of a tier 1 team this year. But again, Washington for me is a tier 3. Games at home, so they'll have a chance. But I think they will be an underdog by 6 or 7 points in this game. And then I think they'll be bigger underdogs against Penn State and Oregon. I think these 2 teams are both looking really, really good right now. Could be top 5, 6 teams, especially Oregon. And you've got both of these games on the road. So that's why they are in the orange instead of the yellow, because they're on the road. Going to be very tough to win really either one of these games. And that's a tough way to close out your season with Penn State and Oregon on the road in 2 of the final 3 games. So really tough end of the season there. And then that leaves you with Rutgers, Iowa, and USC. And to me, these are your 50-50 games. These are the games that could really go either way. I've got Washington a tier above Rutgers, but because that game is on the road, that's why I think that one is a 50-50 game. So I think Washington probably will be favored by about a field goal in that one, but not by a whole lot. And so that's why it's a 50-50 game. Iowa is also a 50-50 game here. I think Iowa probably is going to be favored in this game by about a field goal. But both of those should be really close spreads and really games that, again, can go either way. And then you've got USC. I'm not sure about USC right now. I think that's one that could really go either way. I just don't know who's going to be the better team. USC is probably going to have the better overall roster, but the game is at Washington. So I don't know who will be favored in that one. I think it's a true toss-up. And again, a game that could go either way there in USC. So you've got 3 games that could go either way. You've got 3 games where they're going to be an underdog, and you've got 4 games where I think they'll be favored, but not by a ton, and then 2 pretty easy wins. And so you average all these out, you do the math with the formula that we have, and you get a projection of 7-5. So 7-5 is the projected record for Washington. And so let's say that if they were to lose to Michigan, Penn State, and Oregon, and let's say they beat Washington State, Northwestern, Indiana, and UCLA, that would mean that they would drop 2 of those 50-50 games. So Rutgers, Iowa, USC, they lose a couple of those, and they're at 7-5. You win a couple of those, you're at 8-4. But they could also lose to, say, Washington State or Indiana on the road. You never know. But again, with the formula that we use, their projection does come out to 7-5. I think that's pretty fair. I think 7-5, 8-4 is a pretty fair projection for this Washington team. A lot of question marks. Hard to say how good they'll be right now. We'll see as we get through the spring and have a little bit more time to evaluate the rosters for all these teams. But again, Washington right now, a very early projection, 7-5. Do you guys agree or disagree? Better or worse? Let me know your thoughts on this team down in the comments below.